Hi everyone and welcome to the Football Analyst. Today we're going to take a look at Arsenal's recent victory against Inter Milan in the UEFA Champions League. So the few things we're going to look at is Arsenal's aggressive press. I think that was quite evident from the start of the match how aggressive they were going to be with their press and just their ability to play through Inter's press as well. Inter were very good at getting the ball back, particularly in their front half, but Arsenal were probably the better of the two at being able to play through. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first thing we're going to look at, and the most obvious takeaway from the start of the match, was how aggressive Arsenal's press was going to be. So if we look at Arsenal at times, they were willing to commit large numbers forward to disable Inter's ability to use their back three formation to easily play out from the back. So Inter were using Sommer to almost act as part of the back four with the three centre-backs, and Arsenal countered this by committing their front three and Eze to match the numbers, leaving Marino to mark both into sixes. So we can see Marino is marking kind of these two. He's charged with that responsibility. Also, Lewis Skelly and Timber come up to sort of mark these wing backs that have pushed up. And then we can see that Sommer has joined as part of a back four. So Eze has come up to sort of match that and mark the numbers. What they would also do is kind of get Mosquera or Saliba almost in 1v1. Zubamendi would kind of help out so they could mark these three. But essentially it was trying to man mark everyone around the grounds, with Marino just having to look after those two in the middle. But we'll take a look at a couple of examples. So here we can clearly see the front four press with Marino tucked behind. So we can see the line of four, and then Marino's looking after these two. So this is simply to even the numbers and ensure Inter aren't able to rotate the ball to free up one of their centre-backs, which is the staple tactic of the back three system. So as it plays, you'll see Arsenal's fullbacks creeping up the press on the Inter wing-backs. So I believe this is Timber here. He was kind of creeping up here, and Lewis Skelly was kind of creeping up. It does leave a lot of space in behind, so it's quite aggressive and quite risky. But as this plays, we can see that Zubamendi has actually come back. So if we watch this again, we can see them attack. So pretty simple, just try and funnel the ball back whence it came into numbers that are waiting. And then as we play out, we can see that Zubamendi is pretty much 1v1. Can't tell who the Inter player is there. And then Saliba is looking after Martinez, and Thuram will be somewhere there with Mosquera. But that was essentially how Arsenal got the ball back routinely. They forced a long chip over the aggressive press into numbers. And just the second example, we can see again the front four. So it's the same kind of situation. Marino's back here. Inter have kind of pushed up a bit higher. But all Arsenal are trying to do is ensure that Inter have to play long into Saliba and Mosquera. And this is partly why Inter brought Esposito on for Martinez in the second half, because he was able to provide a bit better hold-up play. He's quite a big man. So essentially, once it gets played across, it's just a typical shadow run, where it's a curved run to stop it from coming back that way. Trossard is looking after the wing-back here in this instance, and Eze is pushing forward. And as we let this run, we can see again that in this case, I believe that Zubamendi has come up to mark, which has left Lewis Skelly behind to sort of pick up that position. So quite intelligent there from the team, and then it just gets intercepted quite easily. So we can see Lewis Skelly has stayed behind. Zubamendi has actually tracked that run. I believe that's Barella, which has left Marino to kind of pick up Martinez, one of the forwards. So it was almost like an exchange there. So very clever players able to adapt to certain situations. But that was essentially how Arsenal were successful. And then this is just another example. It's probably the best example of where Arsenal were able to put many bodies forward and were prepared to put pressure to ensure this outcome. So this is really interesting. Again, we can see the line of four with Marino. A bit slanted to one side just based on how Inter are setting up. But just try and see the numbers forward. So right now, Lewis Skelly's up high. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 players in frame. Once we let that roll, we can see that even more players have come up. So there's Timber. He's pushed up high. I believe that is maybe Saliba. That could be Zubimendi there. Either way, there's another 3 players. And all that's left really at the halfway line is Mosquera and Thuram. So Arsenal were prepared to send just about everyone into the final third to make sure that Inter didn't have any options short to play out. They had to go long. And then they're able to intercept that. So the next thing we're going to look at just quickly is Arsenal's ability to play through Inter's press. And they used a particular strategy with Zubimendi. So Arsenal started in there in a 2-5-3 shape to play out with, but Inter were able to mirror that shape with their 3-5-2. So it was difficult for Arsenal's players, for Arsenal to play out. And it wasn't until Arteta moved Zubimendi, I told Zubimendi to start dropping in between the CBs and the fullbacks to push high and wide, or higher and wider, did Arsenal start to have some progressive ball movement now that they had a numerical advantage in Inter's front line. So now they've got sort of like a 4-3-3 here, if you include the keeper. And it just meant that they could work the triangles a bit better with the fullbacks sort of pinning Inter's wing-backs, essentially forcing everything to be man-on-man except the keeper. The keeper was really the only one free, so they tried to utilise him, get the ball sort of in this space so they could play out. And we'll see a few examples where that was quite successful. So here we can clearly see the width Arsenal are trying to create with the hope of stretching Inter's man-to-man press. So Lewis Scully's down here. We can see the centre-backs are very far apart, almost on the opposite sides of the box, outside the box, and Zubimendi is going to come into there to receive. So Martinez has left Saliba to press the goalkeeper. And as we let this play, it's a simple play into feet, out to Zubimendi, and we can see the space that's available because, as you'll notice quickly, that Timber has actually pushed nice and high and wide, and DeMarco doesn't want to go any further because he doesn't want play to overlap and be played into Timber, who will be open. And he's also got Saka just behind him as well that he's got to take care of. So they played down the right a lot into Saka and Timber, utilising this sort of tactic. Obviously, Saliba's a bit more progressive than Mosquera is, so it makes sense. But he was able just to roam forward and play forward into space, and they were able to progress the ball into the final third with some speed. The next example is very much the same. We can really see how high and wide Timber goes with this one in an attempt to keep DeMarco from pressuring Saliba's dribble. So back into Zubimendi again. He'll knock this out wide, and just watch this space down here for Timber and where DeMarco is. So these moments help relieve some of the pressure Inter were building with their press and gave Arsenal the opportunity to control territory. So we can see DeMarco's all the way back. Saka's actually inverted here, and Timber's stayed wide. So DeMarco doesn't want to push there because it means everything has to rotate. Everyone's got to come over to help cover for DeMarco's movement. So he wants to stay back, particularly in a back five. They want to be rock solid in their defensive line. So it often gave Arsenal these opportunities, and Saliba was able to push forward and advance the ball. So those were the two ways Arsenal were really able to get the edge in the first half. I wouldn't say they dominated the game. 3-1 is definitely probably reflective of how it went to a large degree. 2-1 would have been probably better. 3-1 might flatter Arsenal a bit, but in the end, they were probably slightly the better team, although I think Inter would be disappointed with the result there. But there you have it, a quick analysis on how Arsenal were able to just edge out a very strong Inter Milan team. Let me know your thoughts on the match and anything that you noticed in the comments below. Again, I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you would like to support the channel and help it grow, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel for more analysis, as this would be very much appreciated. As always, thank you for watching, and may your team be forever winning.